computer. Boom, max depth. Welcome, Mr. Jonathan Hillis. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, no problem.
Welcome. It's so nice to meet you. Just for anyone who's listening who does not know you, could you just give a little background on who you are, what you're a part of, what your mission is? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no problem. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Paid up in Canada, and we're a global company. And what we're looking to do is help students get ahead. That's basically what we do. And so what we've done is we've created a digital student card experience that integrates a savings mechanism that helps students pay for their education while they're in school, to put it into simple terms. And so we're just changing the landscape of education by helping institutions not just provide an education, but the means to pay for it. And, I've been in the, I would call it the college and university industry for over 15 years, former, student union president at my college. Got into health insurance, so selling health insurance to colleges and universities to provide to their students, and created a mental health program that provided on-demand access to therapy when students needed it, through video therapy and all that. And it was actually through that program that we created that we saw that when you kind of peel back the onion of, anxiety, depression, and all those kind of mental health issues, we found that the majority were dealing with financial struggles. That was the catalyst to a lot of different things. And so it dawned on me, it's like, why aren't we doing more to help, this generation get ahead? I struggled with student debts when I graduated college, and, I don't want anybody to go through that. And so that's what we're passionate about. It's just helping students, right? Every partnership we make, every agreement, it's with the understanding that, everybody's going to win, but the student needs to win the most.
So you saw the debt as the root cause of a bunch of other problems that you were also looking to tackle. Okay, great.
Yeah. And so the idea is, we've been trying to teach financial literacy to students and kids for a long time. And, the majority of North Americans, over 50% are still living paycheck to paycheck, right? So where's the breakdown happening, right? And I think what it is that, it's tough to teach people financial literacy and what to do with their money if they don't have any money to kind of work with, right?
Yes.
And so our philosophy is, okay, let's not try and teach financial literacy first. Let's help you put your savings on autopilot so that you have something to work with, and we can educate you on what to do with that money so that it's working for you, right? And so that's our philosophy, is like, let's put those savings on autopilot, and then we'll teach you the financial literacy pieces.
When you say savings on autopilot.
Yeah. So what that is, you can upload any of your payment cards to our platform. We help you round purchases. We help you earn cash back where you spend, and then you can invest those funds. And another piece is that we can actually, you can actually crowdsource that as well. So mom and dad can do the roundup and cash back and investments, and all of the money that they're saving as well goes towards your education, right? So if you're in, third year of college, and you're $27,000 in debt because you got to take out that money, well, you can start to save and pay it off piece by piece, right? While you're in school, right? And instead of saying, okay, up in Canada, where I'm from, you don't have to pay any interest on that those student loans until you graduate. So the idea is, how much can we help you save from day one in your post-secondary career?
So by the time you get to the end,
you got a big chunk, you put a big chunk onto that student debt. So we, based on our consumer spending behaviors, and you have two supporters on the program, well, we can help you save $10,000 to $15,000 over a 4-year.
And so, sorry, can you just break down where that $10,000 to $15,000 exactly is coming from?
Yeah. So over 4 years. So if you look at the transactions that students have and transactions that parents have. On average, students are probably making anywhere around 50 to 70 transactions a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we round up those transactions to the nearest second dollar, so it's $1 and change, and then we help them earn cash back where they're spending. So they're earning $5, $10 cash back where they spend, that accumulates over time. And then when you introduce your parents into this, parents are, they're making 100 plus transactions a month. So you start to add in all that plus their cash back earnings. Well, it starts to compound, right? And then you put it into a savings mechanisms, whether that's like up in Canada, we have like tax-free savings accounts or high interest savings accounts. So you can put it into that so that, by the time you graduate, you've got a large chunk of money that can go on to that student debt. So now we're saving, on our projections, we're saving around $6,000 to $7,000 in interest over a 10-year period. I know down in the States, it's, the average student, it takes about 20 years to pay off that student debt,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how do we help tackle that? How do we help, cut that in half, so that people can get ahead, right? That's really what it's about. If we can help people be financially savvy and do things, but put it on autopilot where they're not stressing about it, that's where a lot of the stress comes from, is that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I got a budget. I got to constantly think about my finances. And so the idea is, let us do the heavy lifting. Let us put it on autopilot so that you can focus on the things that you need to focus on, like getting good marks in school.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an athlete, kicking ass at the next game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Training hard, doing all that stuff. And so that's really what we're about. It's like let's help reduce the stress and the mental load that finances have on students.
I love that. Are you guys, you said you're in Canada, are you mostly operating in Canada? Or are you mostly operating in the US? Are you guys, where are you
We're
guys?
currently in Canada and we're coming down to the US. So that's our big push right now. We're coming down to the US. We work with institutions. So how it works is we help digitize the student card, right? So instead of you having to have that physical card, we help basically put it on your Google Wallet or Apple Wallet.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
So
I
you
got
can,
mine on my phone.
yeah. So some schools have it, some don't. Up in Canada, there's like 96% of the schools don't have a digital student card, and I know it's a focus, right? Obviously with COVID, trying to get physical cards into people's hands is
Mm-hmm.
difficult. So we've created this self-serve model, verifies identity, does all that stuff, but also helps just provide an application that students want to use. It's all about user experience for us. We're student focused, right? Not institution focused in the sense that we want to help the institutions provide a great product and link everything together, but it's all the students at the center of everything.
So you're providing the institution with like infrastructure to basically link everyone together, and then the students get like real benefits like cash back like when they're spending.
You got it. So we help create loyalty programs on campus. So as you're spending on campus, you're earning cash back where you spend, right? So the idea is to help drive more consumer transactions on campus instead of off campus. So we can
Mm-hmm.
help facilitate all of that without any POS integration, any of that, because we're a true card-like platform. And so we're able to utilize technologies that are directly on the rails, like Visa and MasterCard and debit and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're working with those type of institutions, Visa, MasterCard, instead of, or do you see like Square or any of the new payment methods, like peer-to-peer payment methods, affecting business, or how do you think about integrating those into your system?
I think, I don't see it really affecting us, right? And as things start to move forward, I think it's something that would look like partners for us, right? I look at how do we help, at the end of the day, it's how do we help students? Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
students doing, right? What are they used to? Are they Venmoing stuff over back and forth? Are we able to link into Venmo to help them, get more benefits out of that? So that's
Mm-hmm.
constantly what we're looking at. And how do we use like crypto? How do we use certain aspects of what this generation is utilizing,
Mm-hmm.
but providing additional benefit when they do use it.
Mm-hmm. So you know Acorn?
Yep.
So is it similar? So you said round up a dollar, like a dollar plus the change on transactions like that, which I think is similar to what Acorn does. Like
Yep.
they'll take the surplus, they'll round up the dollar, and then invest on that behalf. So it's similar to that, but
Yes.
focused completely on students in college, and then directed it like how much of it is going into investment versus like the automated savings account? Is that like customizable in the app?
Yeah, it's all customizable by
Cool.
the individual. Yeah, so
Cool.
it's very similar to Acorns. One of the things, like, we don't use like a Plaid or a Flanks to get the information. So because we're a card link platform, you don't have to sign into any banking information. So it's more secure,
Hmm.
right? It's a better user experience because it's kind of, you just upload your payment cards, and we tokenize that instead of storing that information. So we're all about mitigating risk and making sure everything's secure for not just the student or the individual using the program, but also the institutions, right? So if we're working like with a Georgetown, we want to make sure that we're mitigating any risks so that they don't have to worry about any data breaches and stuff like that. So the idea is to utilize real time, like APIs, to pull information without storing it.
Beautiful. So
Yeah.
how much technical, or well, I guess we could go into the beginning of like how you founded this company, because I would love to hear about that. Are you like a tech guy at heart, or were you the one like coding these systems? How did you find a great CTO? Are you the people person, management? Like,
Yeah.
could you just go off on that?
Yeah. No, for me, I've always been kind of an entrepreneur mind. Like, I'm not a technical guy. I don't code. I don't do any of that. I've, grown up in an entrepreneurial family. Father owns a very successful sign company in
What company?
Canada.
Sign?
Sign company, like exterior signage. So I think it's one of the largest sign companies in Canada. It's called Pride Signs out of
Cool.
Cambridge, Ontario. So like exterior signages, doing Home Depots, Walmarts, all that. Like, I
Cool.
built a lot of that stuff with my own hands. And so I was just always doing something, side gigs. I had my own detailing company when I was in high school, like always doing something to generate some extra money in my pocket.
I love that.
And just always had that mindset of like trying to solve problems, trying to find efficiencies. Like, so being in the sign industry, it's all about like production, right? So how do we produce things faster, more efficient, with less manpower, all of that stuff. So it's all about looking, taking a step back, looking at the production flow, understanding, okay, if we just set it up properly, we can actually be more efficient, right? And
Mhm.
then we can bang out like large accounts really fast and get those signs out depending on what they are. So that's kind of where my mindset comes from. So it's always about trying to solve problems and be efficient in what we do. And so for me, when starting this business, I had a very successful sales career in insurance, and so I had enough money to say, you know what, let's go do my own thing. And with that,
How long
and
after was
also,
that?
what's that?
How long were you in the sales?
I was always in some form of sales. I used to work for
Or
like Living
specifically like in
Social back in the
with
day.
insurance?
Yeah, with insurance, I was in insurance sales for probably about 10 years.
Okay, yeah, I think because maybe I needed to hear that, because like say this is your journey, and then now you're working on something you like really care about. Sometimes you got to grind for those early years.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And it's one of those things, it's like I'm learning so much. Like, and I think if you aren't looking at, running your business and being a lifelong learner, because there's always something you can learn when you start a
mhm.
business. You can't think that you know everything. And that's the one thing that I've definitely learned is that um, I don't know everything. I got to lean on people. I find, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and I play to my strengths. And if I know my weaknesses, I try and find people to fill those gaps to, number one, learn from so I can build those weaknesses up. But it's also to lean on them, right? And trust them to help us get forward in our journey. And, I look at, I'll probably only be able to take this company so far. And then I got to bring somebody that's, done something um, larger than what I've done to kind of help us get to the next level, right? And it's understanding and planning for those things. So I think for me, when I look at building this company, I've built apps through other companies before, and being able to manage the technology side of that and making sure that we're getting from A to B with the tech, so working with tech companies that are doing all the coding. And so I had that experience. So that's what I knew. I knew I could kind of bootstrap and put the money into it, get a company to build it for me, and then I can go sell it, right? I can utilize my expertise in sales and my kind of Rolodex of people that I know in the industry to help us get ahead, right? And so that's really, again, just understanding my strengths and leaning on other people to build up those weaknesses that I have, and so we can get to our MVP and get ahead.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So I was, yes, because a question like I came across before, I've thought about is how does like a non-technical, I guess more people person, CEO type, provide value in a tech situation, especially at the beginning when technology is such a focus. And what I heard you were saying, sometimes it's not like, sometimes the answer is just pay a company to just get the work done. I mean,
Sometimes, yeah.
delegate, right?
Yeah, it is like sometimes you gotta understand what the cost factor is to build something. The other thing that you can do as well is like there's some great no code programs out there that you can kind of build build the forward facing application of what you want it to do. So that gives you an opportunity to go out and kind of get people on board. Then you can get investors to say, okay, I love what you're doing. I love the problem you're solving. They'll invest, and then you can go build it, right? You don't necessarily have to have the full code done. So there's lots of different ways you can tackle to getting to your end goal of starting your own business. It's just, you have to kind of strategically think of, what can you do to get there, right? What can you do, one, from an individual to create the idea and do that? You might even just need to hire a graphic designer that knows how to build certain things and create that no code demo for you. And then you're just going to get investors to buy into what you're doing.
Great. So from start to end goal, is it collect data, try to find target market, get to MVP as fast as possible, collect more data, adjust, tell your story to investors, bring in more people, delegate correctly, make a more robust product, collect more data, bring to market? Is it something like that?
Something like that. I think you need to validate your idea first before, like, I wouldn't even invest any time into like a no code demo if you don't have, some type of validation around what you're trying to build, right?
And when you say validation, you mean just like that people want it?
Yeah. Get some type of, like, have the conversations with your target market. If you know that it's, so for me, before I even started to build the product, I talked to a ton of students. So I talked to student leaders. Like I said, I pitched them the idea. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? Got their feedback, got their input, and it was resounding 100%. Like, yeah, I wish I had this today. Yeah. So with that information, it was okay. There's my validation from the student perspective. Okay, so let's go build it, right? And then from there, you get them on the platform. You get them to kind of play around with it, whether even it's just the demo, right? You get them to play around and give you feedback, what you like, what you don't like, where are the problems, what, if there's like a user flow, where do you get hung up? And then from there, you build out and make sure that you're building with understanding the data, right? Like, so for us, we understand the user flows, like, okay, where do people fall off? Where are people successful and where aren't they successful? And how do we get them from A to B within that journey, right? So constantly understanding the data aspect allows you to make better decisions moving forward as well.
Beautiful. I know we touched on it a little bit, but would you, and we're touching on it right now, but you were talking about sharing some philosophies in how you run a business. Do you want to try to just, or sure, can you just expand on that? I know it's what we've been talking about already, but.
Yeah, and it's funny, you know what, obviously growing up in a successful family-run business, you could see when when you take care of people within your organization, your company flourishes, right? So it's all about, and I think if you look at what's happening today, they call it the what is it, the great resignation of a lot of people moving around because, they need to make more money, or they want to have a better situation that gives them a better work-life balance, or working from home, you know what I mean? So understanding your employees, one, understanding their goals, two, and helping them achieve those goals and achieve where they want to go in their life. I think that's what we're building here at Paid. Is like, it's not about building them up within the organization necessarily, right? It's always about building them up, but if it's to help them get to another spot and it's with another organization, that's fine too, right? Because when you look at business, there's only, when you look at climbing the ladder, you can only go so far in most organizations, right? But if we can help people, even get to that next job that's with a bigger organization that helps them fulfill the goals that they have in their own career, well, then that's what we want to do. Because it's not about us, right? Like, yeah, we want our business to flourish, but if we can help people flourish, that's more important to me as an individual than, because if they're flourishing, then our business will flourish. You know what I mean? Like, I look at it from, our philosophy is to have at least 30% of our workforce to be paid internships or co-ops, so that, number one, we're staying so close to the demographic that we're trying to work with. So we get a lot of feedback, right? But we're also giving them the opportunity to build their career at the same time, right? So that's what we're trying to do with students. So why wouldn't we want to do the exact same thing with our full-time employees?
Yeah,
Right?
that's a great point. I was just thinking the balance between like retaining great people and also having the philosophy of, all right, we want to create the best environment for you, but also are okay with you going on.
Yeah, and I think that's, if you create that environment, you pay them what they're worth. Number one, I think, for us, we always pay our students. No ifs, ands, or buts. We're going to pay our students. We're going to pay them more than than most people pay them, right? Most of them will pay minimum wage. We'll pay more than minimum wage, or some people just don't pay them at all. It's like, no, you got to put the time in. It's like, well, I don't believe in that personally. If somebody's coming to help your business get ahead, they should be paid for it, right?
Yeah, that's a reasonable
especially
thought.
Students. Like, I think, you look at what's happened in the past. People think, okay, I got to do an internship here and I don't get any money, but I got to put the time in. It's like, no, you shouldn't have to just put the time in. You put your time in your education. You've worked hard. Why shouldn't you get paid to do something, right? If you're contributing and helping an organization move ahead, you should be paid for that.
Yeah, that's a reasonable point.
Right? And if you got a business owner that thinks, okay, no, you help me out, right? I'll give you a reference. References, how, and if you're not directly associated with that individual, how, like, you can only help them get so far ahead. But financially, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help these students get ahead financially. So for us that'd be counterproductive in our goal if we didn't pay them, or pay them more than what people think they should be paid.
It's weird how unpaid internships have kind of become instantiated in the process of education, or slightly like mid to post education. Just I never even thought that was such a weird thing.
Yeah. So it's
cool.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of our philosophy is, you're going to get paid what you're worth. One, we're going to help build you up and provide you the opportunity to advance your career. Two, and obviously, if we can do these things and provide the environment and really take care of people, appreciate what they do on a daily basis, then I think the retention piece comes with it, right? And that's kind of my philosophy. You take care of people, they're going to take care of you. And instead of them wanting to get, a couple grand more a year, they're going to want to stay here because it's a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They feel appreciated. They get paid decent. I look at what is it, Dan Price? He's making sure that everybody gets paid at least 70K, 75K, or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is within his organization, and cut his own pay. Like that's the way to do it, and they're flourishing. And you looked at all the people that said he wasn't going to do well and that business is going to fold, but in the pandemic they grew their business X amount. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's proven. You take care of people, they take care of you.
Yeah, and it's not a complicated thing to understand. Obviously,
No.
it's a symbiotic reciprocal relationship. It just
Yeah.
makes sense.
And I look at it this way. We try and provide opportunities to kind of, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that there's like revenue share, or type of, an opportunity to get a piece of the pie in an equity stake,
Hmm.
or shares, right?
Do you
And
offer
that's,
that to people? Like,
yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. So the idea is, how do we get, because if people have ownership, right?
Their incentives are aligned. They're so
Their
much more
incentives, yeah,
devoted,
exactly.
so much
Yeah,
more invested. At least for me, it would
exactly.
be.
Yeah, they care about the business because it's almost like you're an owner, right? You
You
are,
are.
right? You are an owner, so you care about the business just as much as I do, right? And I also look at it this way, like we're as our workforce grows, we're going to go to a 4-day work week, and it's going to be a staggered 4-day work week. So it's basically, we almost have like 2 shifts. So the idea is to have one shift working Monday to Thursday. The other shift works Tuesday to Friday. So we're still open 5 days a week, right? Helping people, customer service, all of that stuff. But then the following week they flip flop,
Okay.
right? So the Tuesday to Friday goes Monday to Thursday, and then the Monday to Thursday goes Tuesday to Friday. So every other week you have a 4-day weekend.
Okay. My question is, do you have a group that is an optional work all 5 days group?
Yeah, yeah. Like,
So people
it's
can
at
do
the end of
that.
the day, it's like I said, we understand what the employee wants to do, right?
Hmm.
How do you want to work? How do you feel you can be efficient? Because I know there's some people that are super efficient in the office. There's some people that
Hmm.
are super efficient from home.
Hmm.
Myself, I'm kind of that combination. I need to be in, I need to be out, right?
Hmm.
That's how I find, that's how I find my efficiency. So when we understand what they want to do and how they want to work and how they can be efficient, that's what we let the employees kind of decide what that looks like.
Hmm. Yeah, because when I first heard about mandatory 4-day work week, that was even being considered, I was just like, why? Why mandatory? That just doesn't make any sense to me. If people want to work, how dare you say that they can't?
It's true. And I look at it this way. I think it's more about creating a better work-life balance,
Hmm.
right? For individuals. But I also think it's, for me, I want people to have a side hustle. I want to
Yeah.
help teach entrepreneurialism, right? How
Hmm.
do we help? Because I look at it this way. If you're looking at creating your own business or doing your own side hustle and create some extra income for yourself, and we can create the avenue by giving you like a 4-day weekend to do that,
Hmm.
well, you're going to look at that business in a different way, right? And you're going to bring that same creativity and mindset into what you do with us,
Hmm.
right? So you're
And that
winning,
they're going
we're
to
winning.
acknowledge that you gave them the space to pursue that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, but that side hustle could end up being their
Hmm.
own business. And we've helped create the opportunity for them to do that,
Hmm.
right? And and then maybe they're coming to us and trying to find out, or coming to myself and saying, how can I move this forward? And now again, it's building them up to what they want to do in their career, right? If they want to be their own business owner, well, let's help them get there. Let's
Hmm.
help them build them up within the knowledge of a startup, and then get them to that point,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, I hear you saying something like meeting, like really understanding people, meeting them where they are, understanding them, and then assessing where they want to go, and then helping them find that path in whatever way you can.
Exactly.
And people see that and they feel it, because not everyone will do that for them. And I think that is a huge strength that you'll have and that anyone who does that definitely has over other people.
Yeah. And, it's because we're all going to get to where we want to be. We're all going to get older. We all have, some of those goals may change over time. So
Mhm.
it's kind of keeping that communication open. I also think if we create the environment in the manner that I'm talking about, they're going to be more open to
Mhm.
coming to myself or to the team to say, hey, my goals have changed, or they're going to be more open about coming if there's like an issue or something, right? We want to create that open door policy and create the environment that they're comfortable to have those conversations as well.
Beautiful. Love it. When you were talking about you being the type of person to want to go in and out of the office, like to work best, I thought of like spaces that you are like most focused or most creative, maybe. So where do you go? Maybe if you're feeling stuck, are there systems that you have to kind of like reboot, refresh? Is it going into nature, or maybe if you're struggling with an idea or a partnership, or what kind of strategies do you use to work through those hard problems?
To be honest, for me, I try and find a mechanism that allows me to shut my brain off. And that for an entrepreneur, it's pretty hard to do.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's just, you know, watching a show,
Mhm.
taking 30 minutes to just, or watch some sports or something and just get into it and look and try and, I've been in sports all my life. So looking at the game in a more analytical way
Mhm.
so that I'm shutting my brain off from everything else that I'm doing. So then I can come back fresh to looking at that problem without, being stuck.
Mhm.
So finding those types of things are going to work out, like something that just, takes my mind off of it, listening to
Mhm.
music, going for a drive, those types of things. Or, I got two kids, so playing with my kids and
Yeah.
being in that moment, so that you're away from whatever that problem might be.
Mhm. Beautiful. How many people are you at right now with Paid? How many employees
Uh,
do you have?
we're at seven,
7.
seven right
Okay.
now, and then we're going to bring on two more.
Cool. Okay. So at the 7 to 10 level, I would imagine that it's, well, I don't want to say fairly easy and undersell it, but the ability to like control or maybe push a certain company culture would be a lot easier with 7 to 10 people versus like 500 or 1,000 or like some like a really big like institutional whatever it is.
Yeah.
So how do you like think about scaling? Like, I mean, I don't know what your like projections are, how many people you like need to make Paid like as big as you wanna make it. But do you think about how to maintain the roots of your company and those core ideologies, or those core ideals, like as you're hiring more and more people?
I think what it is you got to set the stage from day one,
Hmm.
right? So as people come on, if you're setting the stage and, I'm talking the way I'm talking to you today,
Hmm.
well, that's going to set the stage. And it's all about, if people are coming in from a managerial standpoint, I'm going to start to manage people. Well, I'm putting the philosophy that this is what we're doing. You need to do this with them, right?
Hmm.
So you have to set the stage and the expectation from day one of you know, what the environment's going to be, right? And I think if we can maintain that aspect, um, because I'm going to want to take whoever's managing people, I want to build them up, right? So that's
Hmm.
my goal, right? I might not be able to help build, as we grow, some of the lower level employees, right? On a more personal basis, but the idea is how do we provide the environment for those managers to do what I'm doing with them,
Hmm.
right? So it's like we want to make sure it's flowing throughout the whole organization.
Hmm. Yeah, bottom up culture
You
rather
got it.
than top down.
You got it.
Yeah, that was something we were talking about in our management class, and I was like, obviously bottom up, because I mean, then it's everyone's growing out of that rather than being suppressed by it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to have the philosophy that it's, everybody's got titles and roles, and it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Do you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's like some people are going to make final decisions on things, but we're all working towards the same goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why I say it's like, even when somebody comes on to work with us, the idea is that you're going to win and we're going to win, but at the middle of it, students win,
Mm-hmm.
right? So even in our employee agreements, like that's in there. In our
Mm-hmm.
partnership agreements, that's in there, right? Like we literally have that in our partnership agreements. We're all going to win,
Written out.
but the student needs to win the most,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's our focus, right? So if there's ever a dispute around what's happening within the partnership, we can always come back and understand that, hey, it's not about you, it's not about us, it's about students. We're all going to win in here. But if we keep that in our focus, then we're always going to be aligned, right? There's not going to be as many issues from what the goal is.
Do you think that keeps you rooted, that like that one pillar? Because sometimes I feel like it's easy to have a lot of different goals and you can kind of say they're all going towards the same direction, but when you really have it, like everything, like you've said, it's all about the students so many times, like already, just like, and so I know how serious you are about that. I think it probably like really helps you, like just in making decisions, or just like operating the business, having that as the single core pillar, core tenet that everything revolves around. That must be a good way to frame everything.
Exactly. And that's really what it's about. If we that's the, that's our North Star,
Hmm.
right? That's where we're headed. Let's keep it that way. And if our partners know about it, all the employees know about it, it it we get out of our own way. Do you know what I mean? It
Hmm.
becomes less about, like, I've been in organizations where you're thinking like you start to internalize a lot of stuff and feel a little bit jaded or some resentment. Like if if it's not about me and it's about students, we can, I won't have those feelings, right? Because we're creating the environment to take care of people. We understand that it's not about me, it's about helping students, right? People can get passionate about that.
Hmm. Yeah, I love it. I was just thinking, this is totally different. If you want to, if you will entertain me and explore
Yeah.
different ideas, I was thinking, like, I mean, everyone kind of needs to feel like there is. I think it's good when people feel like there's something bigger than themselves. I mean, it was religion before. Who knows what it was before religion? But it's religion before, and then in the 20th century, it became like ideologies, or even before that, it was the rulers in medieval Europe. It was the king that was
Mhm.
connected to God. And as we move into this, I would say, like increasingly secular, somewhat materialist, like very scientific, somewhat atheist world, like when everyone believes in science, I feel like the organizations are almost becoming the thing that people think is bigger than themselves, like in joining like a thing like paid, like that has such a clear focus and mission. It's almost like joining a religion, almost like having like that ideology. You're bounded by the same like kind of framework that you think about the world. And it's just fascinating to me. It's a cool way to bond people and motivate people, especially in a time when I think they need to feel like there's
Yeah.
something bigger than themselves.
Yeah. I think what it is it's trying to create that domino effect, right? Like I look at it, like, look at the environment, right? Like a lot of people are very, very passionate about the environment. How do we help reduce, emissions, all that stuff? And there's a lot of businesses that are focused on that, becoming, net neutral, all those things. So that's a key goal and a key pillar to what their business is about is, they're driving towards something that everybody can, band around. And it's the same thing within our organization, because what happens is, if we can help take care of the environment today, it means the world's gonna be better for our kids tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
Same thing with paid is, okay, well, if we can help students get ahead today, well, they're going to be able to do more tomorrow. And then if you look at the way the birth rate is, right? Most people, you look at it, 40 years ago, they're having kids, at 20 years old, 18 to
Hmm.
20, they have a kid, right?
Hmm.
Now it's, you're looking at 30 years old, 30, 35. Some people are
Hmm.
getting into 40, 45 before they have their first kid, right? And it's like, typically the reasoning for that is because they're career focused and they're financially focused. They want to make sure that, they grew up in a place where their parents struggled financially just to kind of make ends meet for the kids. They want to do it in a reverse. They want to make sure they're taken care of today so that when they do have kids, they don't go through the struggle or the lack of opportunities that those kids might have had, back then, right? So they want to make sure kids have those opportunities today, right? And I'm in that same scenario. Like, grew up where it was a struggle early on until, my dad's business took off, and then you could see how it worked. But there was that time, like my first 13 years of my life, where it was a struggle to do a lot of things, right? Never play, I'm up in Canada, so I never grew up playing hockey because we couldn't afford it. 4 boys trying to pay for hockey equipment and all that, so we weren't able to do that. I'm able to now provide that for my oldest son because I had him when I was 30, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I love everything you're saying. I mean, just the providing a better life for, or just doing everything you can so that what you're leaving can have some positive impact. Because I guess, I mean, like, obviously you're trying to create a better life for your kids just for your own sake, but in an even bigger sense, you're creating a better life for your kids so they can be better off, so that they can go on and have a better impact on the world because of what you did. And that goes back to that domino effect of just like the one small help here. Who knows what, like, a slightly better position for your kid, maybe they'll have a giant outsized effect on the world because of that. And then
yeah,
who knows where it takes it from there.
exactly. Because I look at it, you look at the boomers, right? The boomers were so focused on growth and wealth that they didn't think about the impact that growth and wealth would have on the economy, on the next generation, on the environment, right? So I think there's a real change in mindset with the next generation. Is, as you're building stuff, you're thinking about those things, right? How is what I'm doing affecting the environment? How is what I'm doing going to affect the next generation? And so I think there's just a change in mindsets because of what we've experienced with, our parents or our grandparents as they built businesses and grown the economy and gotten the world to where it is today. So I think that's the change in mindset, is taking care of people, taking care of the environment, and moving forward in that
Yeah,
direction, and understanding what the impact is that you're going to leave behind.
that's what I was gonna say. Like, being really thoughtful of like what the consequences and like unintended consequences of your actions are, like, down the line. I love that. And it's also not like, when you're talking about the boomers or like our parents, grandparents, it's not like everything they did was wrong. Like, they helped in so many ways. I think
Yep.
it's like looking at what they did, like seeing what they did right, and then like making those micro adjustments and adding our own like new philosophy of, I mean, it would be
Yeah.
ridiculous to call it like a new philosophy, but just being like more thoughtful, like everything we've been saying, adding those new things onto an existing structure rather than ripping everything down and completely replacing it with our new ideas.
Yeah. I think the big word that really resonates most with me is empathy. So we're doing business with empathy, right?
Hmm.
So we're trying to understand, how this would affect, people, how it affects
Hmm.
others, right? So you're doing it with empathy at the forefront of building, the economy, building the business, all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I've already like, I mean, I guess you kind of like know all these things, but just like hearing it or seeing you implement it is awesome. Like, having empathy, having other people's like needs at the forefront, making sure your people are taken care of, and making sure that you're not holding on to them, like letting them go off after, like not being so restrictive of them. All of these things, like providing value to people as much as you can, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, like all of these things are just so important to hear, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? I say this after every meeting with the team, is like, is there anything else I can do to help you be more successful?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need? Like, I always ask that question because they might not be thinking about it, or they have thought about it. And even if, they feel like, okay, can we get this program to help me be more efficient in some way, like getting HubSpot so the team can utilize that from a communication standpoint and just manage some of our social aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Just whether it's tools, whether it's, do you need support in a different way? Do we need to have a conversation to just find out, okay, is there something going on behind the scenes that I can help out with? Or just have an understanding that, hey, I'm here to support you. That's really what I'm trying to do, is make sure that if I ask that every day, they're gonna tell me, because they might have thought about it yesterday, but they'll tell me today,
Mm-hmm.
right? So give them the opportunity to voice how, because they know what they need to do. They know how they can be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't ask the question, sometimes it can be left behind. And I don't want it to be left behind. I always want it to be at the forefront.
Mm-hmm. And by you asking that, is there anything I can do to help you? I think that just pays dividends in so many different ways. Like builds a loyalty, but also, like, I think in a very real sense, you're saying something like I'm here for you now. I'm offering this to you, like in a like directly right now, and I know that by offering that, you're gonna be there for me, and you're gonna
Yeah.
do better because of it. Like, whether like that's implied or just like through their work, and I think that they probably feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it's not about me. Like, our focus is students, and my focus is making sure I take care of employees and help students along the way, all of that stuff. Like, it's,
Mm-hmm. And so
if
by
we
not
just
even
help
thinking about
others.
yourself, I think by not even thinking about yourself, you're helping yourself, whether you know
Yeah.
it or not.
Yeah. And yeah, that could be the case, but I care about people, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And care about helping people out. You know what I mean? Like, I got buddies that'll give me a call. Hey, no problem. I'll drop everything to come help you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the way our society should be. It helps
Yeah.
build better community, all of that stuff creates, you just create better friendships and relationships by doing those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to act on the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I've loved it. I mean, I looked at some statistics on like on like student debt. I just wanted to get like an honest opinion from you on, I don't want to say if paid is enough, but like what are other ways that you think need maybe like government changes, the way like institutions operate, to make like a huge impact in the, because I mean, just some of the numbers are crazy. 43.2 million. I think this is just in the US. Student borrowers in debt by an average of 40,000 each, 39,351. Outstanding federal loan portfolio is 1.59 trillion. Like, I
So
think it's a super great mission what you're doing, and like will help people, and like helping people at the individual level is great. But I was just wondering, maybe if you think there are other things that maybe you could do in parallel with paid, from maybe a government or from a larger institution point of view, that could help.
yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't know if there's a real answer to that. Like, when you look at it from a government standpoint, you have to look at it the way the wheel is turning from a business perspective with the education system. Like, it's hard to change the direction that it's in. It's going to take a lot of time, right? Because if you look at the student debt globally, it's like over $3 trillion globally,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's crazy. And the US has the majority of it, which
Mm-hmm.
is another crazy thing to think
Crazy,
about,
yeah.
right? Um, as we get more digital and as we are able to provide more education online, I still think we're we're a ways away from like a full online education. I don't think people can learn that way. There's still people that need to have that hands-on learning. So from our perspective, I think there's things that we have some stuff on our roadmap that we want to do that will help alleviate some of that. But to go to like a free education system, especially with the amount of student debt in, North America. I don't think we're able to do that in any short term, right? We can, because you look at what's happening in the US with some debt forgiveness, that's great. It affects a small group, it doesn't affect the majority, right? And it kind of keeps the wheel turning, right? By taking out money to pay for school, it keeps the economy kind of moving forward, and that's how other people make money. So I don't think I don't have a great answer to that question, because I think what we're doing is a piece of helping it move forward. Other ideas, I'd probably want to keep those close to my chest if I had some more.
Yeah.
But from a government standpoint, I think it's just, I would love for it to happen. I just don't think the economy can do it. Do you know what I mean? I don't think
The larger forces at work.
Yeah, like there's $3 trillion of student debt. We can't just forgive $3 trillion. Because if we do that, how does that affect everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the impact of that forgiveness on the rest of the system?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying is, like, with what we do in our business, we're trying to think about what we're doing and how it'll affect others. The same thing. We do that debt forgiveness. How does it affect the rest of the system? Does that do we just change, now that business that was giving out that student debt, now it affects them. So does that affect different employees? That affect that business owner?
Yeah.
What's that trickle down effect of that forgiveness? So I think it's something that will have to happen over time. But I also think, like, the financial literacy piece, like, how do we help people really understand finances? Because you look at, like, my parents didn't really teach me about the financial aspect because they struggled with it, right? Early on. So, you look at the boomers like, just work your butt off, save money, right? Nobody talked to them really about investing and how to invest, right? It's just about put the work in, right? Earn your paycheck, go home, save some money, and try and save for retirement, right? So now, with the way inflation has gone, how are kids supposed to save, right? Like, how much does it cost to pay for rent? How much does it cost to pay for food, right? That's why you see the, like, minimum wage. If you look at the way economic growth and inflation has gone comparative to what minimum wage is, inflation's up here, minimum wage has stayed relatively stagnant, right? So how are, the young generation supposed to get ahead if that is not moving along with inflation, right? So
Totally. Yeah.
I got off on a tangent there, but
no, it was great. I loved it. I was just gonna counter something you said about, like, the hands-on learning. I still think there's, like, such a huge ways to go with online learning and online education. Like, one of my questions I was going to ask you was, like, how disruptive do you view online learning platforms and opportunities, and how do you think it will affect the landscape of education in a macro scale, something like that. But I mean, I feel like I kind of just got your answer, but also I feel like it's going to come in different packages. The one thing I was thinking of it as a real limitation, rather than it being the hands-on learning that would be a problem, I think the learning could stay, like, relatively intact, because maybe, like, like, a Georgetown professor can just put out an online course, their entire syllabus, like, have homeworks, can do online meetings, like something like that, or have TAs through the website. I think that part could stay intact. But, like, right now, Georgetown got moved online until the 30th, and I'm feeling, like, kind of feeling the effects of not being on campus. So for me, the problem with online learning isn't that it's not as good of a form of learning, but it's everything else that you miss out on, like, while being at college or while being at school. Like, that's the thing. You
it's
can
the
make the same argument,
right?
for homeschooling.
Yeah, it's the experience. I also think, like, the in-person aspect of business is and learning is better in the sense that having people together, it's the energy aspect, right? You have that energy of chatting together. And my phone. right
Nice.
there. And so being together, you can problem solve differently. You can bounce ideas off of each other differently, but it's the energy of being in the same room together that
Hmm.
provides a different stimulation to yourself, right?
Hmm.
Creates, I don't know the technical terms. I'm not, but like, I don't know, pheromones or whatever, but you know what I mean? Like it's one of
Yeah,
those
but
things
I
where
think that's
you're,
real.
you know what I mean? Like it's
I think that's
being in the
real.
same rooms. Yeah. And so I think that's the aspect of learning that also helps open up, better problem solving and whatnot as well.
I wonder if Zuckerberg is trying to program some way to put the pheromones into the metaverse. I mean,
Maybe,
I bet they are. It's a ten
probably
trillion.
they're trying, but it's never going to replace it. Like, yeah, I saw the touch gloves and stuff like, but that's never really going to replace in person. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like you can't the physical we can't. He's like he's trying to create the matrix. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's but I don't know. Like I won't ever replace it. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could. I'll play devil's advocate and say that. I mean, I think with enough time it will replace it, but I don't think we're anywhere near it yet.
No.
Yeah, we're definitely not anywhere near it yet, but I think they're doing their absolute best. And I think, I mean, like maybe how big of a difference is like, what if you got like 90% of what it was like in person and it was just missing those subtleties? I just wonder how big of an effect that 10% difference between like the seeing the person having some type of tactic feedback, like having it all be in 3D, you're wearing goggles, it feels super real. Say that's like at 90% and in person is 100%. What are you really losing when you're with that 10% decrease? Because it's not like the
Yeah.
communication of ideas is really any different. Like you're still going to be able to like have a whiteboard and thing and take notes maybe even easier, share ideas the same way, but it's that like that human element. I just wonder what it takes away and if people are like really considering that.
I think it's the stimulus, right? So like if I were to look at surgery, right? You can perform a surgery in the metaverse and do really, really well, right? And it'd be no problem. You can do it, 10 times out of 10.
Hmm.
But then you get it into the real world, right? And you've practiced it a bunch of times, but the stimulus is different because it's like there's somebody
It's
there,
hmm
right? So that's that 10%. And so I'm just using that because that's probably the
Yeah,
easiest
no, I
analogy
think
to
it's a good
kind of,
yeah.
and that's where it falls behind, right? So
Yeah, I
I think
even
it's a
thought.
super interesting time to kind of
Mhm.
see where things go with that for sure. And it's like, with the metaverse, it's like college and universities can go in there and can learn and provide stuff and do all that. I think AR VR is going to be huge in a lot of aspects, gaming and education as well. But I don't think it will fully replace the in-person aspect or the physical nature, right? Because
Yeah.
everything that they're doing, like if there's, if you're, well, there could be robotics that come in and kind of replace things, and you're controlling that through the metaverse and stuff. Like there's lots of cool things that could happen, but I just don't think I don't know if we'll see it within my lifetime.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Where
yeah, you go on.
I said I just don't know if I'll see it within my lifetime of that where it fully takes over. I still think we're too far away from that.
Yeah, I think
Personally,
it's.
but you never
I
know.
think it. Yeah, who know? Who knows? We're not the ones. I mean, we're trying to get our foot in the door, but we don't know like what they got. I just think the AR is probably even more interesting. Just like the idea of just like being able to maybe have like shared notes or just I don't know like some type of. I think the AR is a lot more realistic than the VR, and it could actually have some like really cool like benefits to people. I don't even know what those would be, but
Yeah,
I mean, because this thing is already like a part of me in like a very real sense. So like when
yeah,
you're thinking about things like Neuralink, like it's really not that crazy of an idea. Or like one of the class I'm taking right now is like human machine interfaces. It's like a tech anthropology course. It's so interesting. It's like my favorite class I'm
yeah.
taking right now. And we're just talking about like the very real ways in which we are becoming cyborgs. Like
Yeah.
we're in the process of merging with these things, and I think like acknowledging it is part of it. And I think that it's not really going to slow down or stop. We just have to
Yep.
think about like, say, like have our pillar be in that conversation. How do
Yeah.
we maintain human values, keep our well-being at the forefront instead of
Yep.
sacrificing it for pure productivity? And
Yep.
which is exactly what I learned from you, which is keeping the students at the very focal point that everything else revolves around.
Yeah. And it's funny. Well, it's funny. You even saw like the one guy got that Neuralink so he could send text by just thinking
Mm-hmm.
it, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
we are on our way. It's just the adoption. It's like anything, right? It's, you know, people are gonna, you'll have your early adopters, you have the people that fight it and all that stuff. So it's interesting to see where we will go.
Mm-hmm.
And the innovation, like if you just look at the progress of innovation over the past, 20, 30 years is incredible. And it could just exponentially keeps compounding and getting faster and faster. So
I think we're right on a little, I mean, some this little dip on an exponential growth curve, and I don't know where. I think it's going to be weird the places we're going to go. Honestly, I don't know
yeah,
what it's going to be like, but I think technology is going to play a strange role in the future. And I just, if I could have some role, if I really think that that's going to happen, is just keeping human values at the very forefront, because I think there's
yeah,
going to be a lot of people in executive positions that might forget that, and that might put productivity above everything else.
yeah, yeah.
But
No, I
it's
agree.
crazy cool to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a fantastic conversation with you.
Yeah, no, this has been great, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. It was really nice meeting you. And I would love to stay connected in any way we
Oh, for
could.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we'll be coming down to the US soon enough. So hopefully we can get on that Georgetown campus and be that provider for Georgetown. We'll see.
sweet. Yeah, that would be awesome. I think it's awesome what you're doing. Your whole philosophy for it is awesome. Like when you were talking about your dad's store, my dad operates in a super similar way. I mean, it's the same story. He has a small but like successful business. He puts his employees first, pays them super well, is always like. And one of the things people always say is he does the callback. Like, and no one does the callback anymore. In response to like the follow up, and he just does that really well. So it's like learning from our parents. It's just everything. And so
Yeah,
I just like when you were talking about your dad's store and the humble beginnings, and then keeping those core human values that you learned really present, and then try to inject them from like a bottom up point in the company, because I just think it makes
yeah,
all the difference.
yeah. The crazy thing is that a lot of people, you know, make a lot of mistakes, do a lot of wrong things. As long as you're learning from it, you're learning, like everything that you do is a learning experience. You're learning what to do or what not to do, right? And if you have that mindset and you keep that up, it's going to take you far.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Well, nice meeting you, man. Thank you so much.
Great,
And we'll
great to
definitely
meet
stay in
you too,
touch.
Max. All right, man.
Thank you.
Take
Have a
care.
good one. Good luck with everything.
Thanks, man.